Thank you.
Our second speaker for today, for the prepared speeches, is Miss Atta'ya Brown. And this is her first speech. She finished the Competent Communicator Manual. She's a CC now. This is her first speech from her Advanced Communicator Manuals. And the one she's working on is from the Professional Speaker Manual. So we get to hear her for free, but maybe not for much longer. This is her first speech, and it's the motivational speech. The objective of this speech is to give a motivational speech applying a 4-step motivational method to persuade and inspire the audience. Her 15 to 20 minute speech today, the title is Perceived Perception. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Atta'ya Brown.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, and thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Perception is a funny thing, isn't it? I'll tell you guys that we actually did not plan this. Aaron and I's speeches are going to seem like we chatted about this prior, but it's just building on it. So, perception. We've all been in that awkward position where we see the pictures, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and we see the happy couple, and then later down the line we see them and like, man, you guys look so happy. Like, what's going on? And they're like, no. As a matter of fact, I dumped her last week. We broke up. We got a divorce. Or, I'm not guilty of this one, but I know someone who is. The woman who maybe had a little extra weight in her stomach. And they walked in and said, well, how far along are you? Her feelings were really hurt, right? She was perceived to be pregnant. She was in the age range and so forth. Can be very embarrassing. I just patted that person on the back and said, it's okay, just walk away. Or what brought me to Or what brought me to this topic today. I'm searching through Facebook, which I rarely do, just every once in a while. This was on Super Bowl on Sunday. And we saw one of our mutual friends, and he's in real estate. And he has all these pictures of him in front of houses and with signs and his nice suit. And he's like, I love what I'm doing. Business is great. And so forth. So my friends beside me said, so, I mean, is he doing good? Is he selling houses? You know, I haven't seen anything yet saying, congratulations to my clients and so forth. And I said, I have no idea. I don't know. But it looks good, right? It looks like he's being successful and he looks happy. Well, isn't that the bottom line? I can perceive him as being successful, and most of all, what matters to me, with most everyone, is I can perceive that he looks happy in what he's doing. And if he isn't, he's doing a great job at looking happy, right? So this conversation got me to thinking about perception. Perception can help us, it can hinder us, and it can hurt us. All according to the situation, the people that we're with, and so forth. So today I'm going to talk to you about perceived perception, and I'm going to speak on it from 4 points. Look how you feel, and feel how you look. What you see is what you get. Your professional reality, and be conscious of your reality, because if you're not, someone else will create it for you. So let's start off with what is perception. I looked through so many sources to find a definition of perception. I will tell you that each one was slightly different. It seems easy enough as a word, but there were a lot of different takes on what perception is. So the one that I chose, it says, perception is the act of seeing what there is to be seen. So if we kind of think about what I said about my friend on Facebook, well, what was to be seen looked really good, right? Also, perception is very important in understanding behavior because every person perceives the world and approaches life differently. So those are the 2 definitions that I want you to keep in mind as I go forward. Now, I don't know how many of you are basketball fans, But last night, I was looking at the Spurs and Miami Heat game. And at one point in the game, one of the Miami Heat players, Hassan Whiteside, was ejected from the game. Did anyone see this game? No? Okay. Well, he was ejected from the game for elbowing the Spurs center. So, of course, they show it on replay, and they're going super slow and showing the movements and so forth. And the commentator said, if that's not acting, I don't know what is. They weren't talking about Whiteside, they were actually talking about the Spurs center. Because, of course, as they show Whiteside making this movement, the Spurs guys are, and falling all back and so forth. And he said, gosh, this guy wants to be the victim. Well, unfortunately, Whiteside was still ejected from the game. Even though they were saying it didn't look like there was contact, it looked like he was over-exaggerating what actually happened. But Whiteside, unfortunately, has the perception throughout the league as being a talented hothead. So, what happened? That took him through, and he was ejected because that's what they know him as. So what he's been perceived as and how he's acted before, even if this time it was not something he initiated, the Spurs player really was invading his space, it didn't matter this time. And you could see on Whiteside's face that he was not happy with the decision. But I must say, to his defense, he did well. He walked out with dignity. So not being cromulent in this instance did not work in his favor. So let's dive into this a little bit more. So my first point, I said, look how you feel and feel how you look. Now that can be a catch-22, right? Now we wake up on days like this week, it's beautiful and sunny outside. I didn't want to wear black and pants and so forth. I wanted to be sunny and bright, just like outside. So I could say that I woke up feeling good, woke up inspired, and I wanted to look that way. Now I'll admit, I tend to wear bright colors on a dark day. Why? Because I still want to bring the sunshine in. Now let's take that the other way. It's a dark and gloomy day. Now, am I gonna look the way I feel on that day? Because we've all woke up on that rainy, cloudy day, and we said, I don't want to go to work today. I just want to stay in bed. I don't want to dress up. And you put on your Uggs, ladies, and we're just covered up, and we have on our scarves and so forth, and we're looking like, what's going on here? Now, that's going to happen. It could truly be cold. In LA, though, they would say we're never really cold, though, right? But if that's the case, and it is a gloomy day, do we necessarily need to look gloomy? No. Because if we all come in looking gloomy and looking this way, the environment is going to immediately come down and sink down. Now, I will tell you, I don't know why, but on some of the days where I did not look my best, I tend to get the most attention. I've been hit on the days when my hair is all over my head, and I say to myself, okay, am I really looking the way that I'm feeling right now? Because I don't think I look that great, but I like to say they saw the potential in me anyway, right? Also, I just thought about this as Aaron was speaking, and he said, have confidence, or they hire confidence and train skill. My husband recently got a new job, and after he was hired and had his first meeting with his new manager, his manager told him, you know, that's exactly what got you hired. And so he said, I admit, I kind of looked at her like, well, what? Because I don't know what I just said or did. And she said, it was your attitude. You are bringing so much excitement and exuberance into the room. That's what I hired. Now, my husband said for a minute there, a slight second, he was like, well, is that all? He said, no. I know I brought the experience. I brought all these things, but his attitude. He was perceived as someone who not only had the skill set, but he had the perception of someone who still wants to learn, what he can bring to the team, and so forth. So perception goes a long way. So we can't always look how we feel. Number 2, what you see is what you get. Or is it? I don't know if anyone ever used to watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but there was this episode, and I believe it was Will Smith went on a date with a young lady, and there was an earthquake. And they got caught in the basement downstairs. And I see some heads shaking. You remember this one? Yeah. So I don't know why I've never forgotten this episode. Well, she's, of course, a little hysterical. She's freaking out. Well, as she's freaking out, she starts popping off her nails, takes off her hairpiece, all these things. And Will Smith is like, whoa, this is not the person I entered the basement with, right? So sometimes what we see is not what we always get. I was reviewing, we're in election time right now, and Hillary Clinton, this isn't her first time around, and they were talking about how in 2008 she went to speak in Louisiana. Well, she took on a little southern accent when she went to talk with them. And they said she did it obviously on purpose because she didn't want to sound like the New York high profile people. She wanted to connect with them. Now, to be honest, I didn't look up where Hillary Clinton is really from, but I do know of people when they go home, all of a sudden their accent comes out or they start speaking. But the perception I received is that it was not. She just decided she would pick that up. It didn't work too well in her benefit. She didn't win that particular time. But we will do those things, right, to fit in, to, again, incite the perception that we want to receive. Prior to my time working here, I used to be in social work. And it never failed. I would enter the room, meet the clients, and they would, this is another one, just another one of these workers gonna tell me all the stuff she read in the book and what I should do. She doesn't have kids. How does she know what I should do with my kids? Oh, I got it all. But with time, I didn't share my story with everyone, but with time, I would start to open up to them and share with them my experience and what actually brought me into the field. But what that did was, it allowed that perception that they had of me to be broken, because they thought I was just another person coming in. But rather, I had a place that I could actually connect with them. Now, obviously, this is not going to be the case in everything, but it just goes to show how people will tend to keep themselves closed off and separate, not open up, and so forth until they feel they have that connection or perceived connection. Last, on that note, I have a real estate license, and I don't see it as a bad thing when I go into some of my listing appointments and they'll not ask me, well, how many houses have you sold? It doesn't bother me. Why? Because when I came in, I was already prepared in how I wanted to be perceived. I came in dressed appropriately. I came in with all of the information that I knew they were going to ask me for, and then some. So by the time I'm done with my presentation, I say, well, did you have any questions for me? The last thing they're thinking about is, well, how many houses have you sold? Because I brought the perception that I am knowledgeable of what I'm doing, and I must have done it enough times, right, to feel this confident. I've also been told, on the other hand, you know, I've interviewed some other people, and the reason that I kept interviewing is because that's all they wanted me to hire them on, is, well, I've sold 200 houses this year. But there's nothing else, there's no personality, there's nothing making them trust that person, which we are, and we all know that buying a house, selling a house, that's, for most of us, our hugest asset. You don't want to just entrust that to anybody. So we want to find that combination of trust, skill, experience, and so forth. I am a woman of many trades. We'll just throw that out on the table, okay? Because I also teach at a local college. And I tend to tell my students, nobody has to know how long you've been doing whatever it is you're doing. Especially some of my students that are not college age, we'll say, or just exited college young, right? They look more mature anyway, so you can tell them, well, they could assume, we'll say, that you've been in the business for 10, 20 years. If you don't tell them that you're new, they don't have to necessarily know that. If they don't bring forth that question, you don't just tell them off the bat, well, you know, I'm new to the business and your house is going to be the first one that I sell. Everyone's not going to want to give you that opportunity. That's just reality. So we know that what we see is not what we always get. And it can be a good thing and can be a bad thing. We have to decipher that in each instance. Last but not least, the guy driving the flashy car. So we've seen and heard of those experiences, the driving experiences, where you can go and pay X amount of dollars and get to drive different exotic cars. Well, my uncle recently did one of these driving experiences for his 50th birthday, and he got a flashy orange Lamborghini. So he's driving the whole day, and finally he said he had to stop and get gas. Now, on a regular basis, my uncle drives a nice BMW. He thinks he's doing good things, and he is. But this Ferrari, or Lamborghini, excuse me, he said, brought a whole new level of attention. He said women were walking up to him at the gas station, and he said while it was like, this is kind of cool, he said, wow, these women are only coming up to me because of this car. I mean, I come to this gas station on a regular basis in my BMW and I get no attention, right? So there are so many things that we perceive a perception that he was maybe wealthy or that this is his car and he's doing really well. Women, we wear black to look thinner. I almost wore it today because I knew I was going to be on camera, but I didn't. We have our undergarments, we have our hair pieces, men and women, all these different things, but we know that what we see is not what we always get. Moving forward, your professional reality. Now this applies to all of us here. As Aaron stated, and we regularly talk about, how we're perceived at work is so important.